Welcome to everybody who's coming in. Feel free to show us your faces. It's totally up to you. We understand if you'd rather be behind the screen.
Let's see. There we go.
And actually, I meant, oh, I hear some feedback, but hopefully that will be going away. I mentioned earlier that I'm a big baseball fan, and next week at Bloomington Rotary, our speaker is a guy named Josh Raywich, who's an IU alum, and he's the current vice president of the Arizona Diamondbacks, and he used to be head of
yes.
for the LA Dodgers. So I'm really excited about getting to talk to Josh next week. And he couldn't do it if he wasn't, you know, if we weren't meeting on Zoom. So there you go.
Believe it or not, I have Arizona Diamondback pajamas.
What?
Don't ask.
Explain.
No, my husband went to visit he had a training there, and he brought me back some Arizona Diamondback
Oh, that's
pajamas.
adorable. Are they flannel?
No, they're silky.
Nice.
But I do have some, yes.
Oh, that's really funny. I've never seen them play. I'm an American leaguer, so. Well, it looks like it's a couple minutes after 2. Shall we get started? Yeah. Welcome everybody to this session on arts advocacy. I'm Sally Gaskill, and my co-host today is Dr. Terry Whitt Bailey. We are the 2 co-chairs of the new Indiana Arts Advocacy Council. And we are extremely happy today to have 2 esteemed state senators to join us. We're going to spend some time today talking about the legislative process and how it works here in Indiana, and about how you as an individual can make a difference in advocating for the arts on a state basis, statewide basis, and certainly in your local communities as well. We expect that many of you will have heard Randy Cohen's keynote earlier today on talking advocacy, and we're going to help you try to translate what you learned in that session into becoming active arts advocates, both in your local communities and at the Indiana State House. So we hope that you will have lots of questions for the senators, and we want to invite you to pose them in the chat box at any time, and we will be getting to your questions in about 30 minutes or so.
Okay.
Terry?
Yes, thank you, Sally. I have the pleasure of introducing our 2 arts leaders of the Indiana State Senate. First, we have Senator Ron Grooms, who is a Republican from District 46, which covers Jeffersonville and New Albany. Senator Grooms has been a member of the Senate since 2010, and he chairs the Senate Committee on Family and Children's Services. We also have Senator Tim Lanane, who represents District 25, which includes Muncie and Anderson. He is a Democrat, and Senator Lanane first joined the Senate in 1997. He's the ranking minority leader of the Senate and has been that Democrat leader since 2012. Senator Grooms is a retired pharmacist, and Senator Lanane is an attorney, and we'd like to thank both of you for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you,
Sally, would you like to take us further?
Yes, so we know that the arts have always enjoyed bipartisan support at all levels of government, federal, state, and local. And as Terry said, this is really personified by Senators Grooms and Lanane, our own elected officials in the State House in Indiana. They're known for reaching across party lines to get the job done, so thanks to both of you.
Yes.
The first question I will pose to Senator Grooms. How different do you think the upcoming legislative session is going to be because of the pandemic? What challenges and maybe even opportunities do you see in general?
Thank you, Sally. Thank you, Terry and Jasmine, for coordinating this and helping us through this today. I've said it many times, and I will always be grateful for the two of you for stepping up to be co-chair of this advocacy group. I'm always proud to say that I think the Arts Commission and Lewis and his staff are maybe one of the best run agencies in the state of Indiana. And I don't take that lightly because there are so many great agencies, but it's always a pleasure to work with them, with the Arts Commission and the folks involved. So thank you. The challenges that the legislature are facing are so difficult to outline and predict is because we've never been down this road before. We've never had to do virtual meetings during the summer. We've never had to prepare for a budget where the leadership and the administration is asking for reserves to be held back from the current budget. We've never dealt with healthcare issues like this, where we've had executive orders put in place that affected so many lives. Education is such a challenge because we're trying to work with virtual education of students as well as classroom in person, which has just become a tremendous challenge. We have redistricting to address in 2021, which is very, very critical to the state of Indiana to try to get it right the first time. And of course, economic development. We went from a 3.5% unemployment rate in early March, to over a 13% unemployment rate in Indiana in the early fall and late summer. So we're looking at a projected deficit in the budget early on of about $600 million that was lost revenue from the 2021 fiscal year budget, fiscal 21 ending June 30th of 2021. So if I had to outline them, I would say budget would be first, probably healthcare second, education third, economic development fourth, and redistricting as five is some of my top five issues that we're going to be faced. How that affects the arts, obviously arts is involved in almost every one of those top five.
Yes.
Somewhere there's a place and a need for arts in schools, in healthcare, in the budget, in redistricting, and certainly economic development. So that would be some of my comments. Thank you, Sally.
Senator Lanane, what would you add to that?
Well, thank you. Again, I just would like to echo what Ron said about congratulating your group for its advocacy on behalf of the arts. And thank you for the opportunity to participate with Ron today in this important effort to promote the arts in Indiana. I would have very little to add to what I heard Ron say there. I think he very well outlined what the challenges are going to be for the Indiana General Assembly, and we're still trying to figure out, just as a practical matter, how are we going to be able to meet safely when we come back in January. And we've put together a continuity committee, as we've called it, to analyze that. They're still looking at that, and we'll have recommendations that will go to leadership to finalize, taking into account, social distancing and everything else that we need to do to make sure that we are safe. The only other challenge that I think the General Assembly probably needs to take a look at from our caucus's point of view would be issues related to social justice, police reforms, law enforcement reforms. We've heard, of course, a lot about that in recent months. So there will be discussions, hopefully, about how Indiana can make sure that we're doing the right thing when it comes to law enforcement, protecting people's rights in the state of Indiana. Other than that, Ron has done a good job identifying the fact that we're going to have a very challenging budget situation to look at. And of course, that's going to directly impact the arts. And so advocacy for the arts and the importance of the arts is really going to be more important than ever before, I think. So I'm glad to see we're putting this effort together. It's going to be needed.
Wonderful. Will you be physically meeting in Indianapolis?
It looks like we will, from what I can understand. It looks like the effort is being made to allow us to physically meet. However, there's probably going to have to be different venues within the State House and maybe the State Office complex itself. The challenge is really great for the House, which has 100 members. The Senate, Ron and I, we only have 48 other colleagues, but still our chamber's smaller than the House. So they're working through all that. We may have to put some people in committee rooms and have them have a Zoom set up or whatever, but we're going to be looking at our options, and whatever we do is going to have to be what is safe for all members and members of the public too. We still anticipate, we want the public to be able to participate. And so we're going to have to take a look at how we make sure that that is something which is foremost in the process as well.
Wow.
If we can just continue with you, Senator Lanane, and if you can help those of us who are a part of this session know a little bit more about legislation, kind of give us a civics 101,
Okay.
and kind of let us know what the legislature does and how a bill becomes law.
Right. Well, I'll try to do this
Cliff Notes version.
Yeah, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. Yeah, hopefully it'll all resurrect your going back to your civics classes in middle school and high school.
That goes way back.
Yes. Well, but the good thing is that amazingly the process, the actual, way a bill gets passed, it remains relatively the same as when we learned it all those years ago. And that is, of course, a bill is introduced in one chamber or the other, or maybe identical subject matter is identified in both the House and in the Senate. So you have to get a legislator who's interested then in actually being the author of the bill. Only legislators can author bills. So assuming you are able to do that, the bill is written, and that itself is a little bit of a process because you have to go through the Legislative Services Agency to get it drafted correctly in the proper form. And once it is drafted to the satisfaction of the legislature, it's then filed officially in whatever chamber the legislator is a member of. For Ron and I, that would be the Senate. And it has to go through 3 separate readings before it finally becomes a bill in the first chamber, the chamber of origination, in our case, the Senate. And all bills get at least a first reading. Then it is sent to a committee, and Ron is a committee chair, and he gets to choose which of the bills that are sent to his committee he's going to actually have heard within the committee process. And the bill's presented. It's then voted on within the committee, and it has to get a majority vote out of the committee, or else it's dead even at that point. Assuming it does get the recommended do pass, as we call it, from the committee, it goes back to the floor of the chamber of the Senate, or it's eligible for amending on second reading. There may or may not be amendments which are attached at that point in time. And then it goes for third and final reading again in the Senate, in the House of Origination, where it has to pass with a majority of the elected members of the Senate. That would be at least 26 votes in the Senate. If it passes within the Senate, well, no, you're not done. All that happens then is it goes over to the House and the process begins all over again. And so once again, first reading, sent to a committee in the House. There's a House committee chair who decides whether to give it a hearing or not. And if you're successful in getting it out of the House committee, it goes back to the full floor of the House again for possible amendments, and then for third and final reading on the floor of the House. Well, you may be done if there hasn't been made any changes made in that second chamber. But if there were changes made in the second chamber, then it's possible it will even end up in a conference committee where those differences have to get worked out and voted again by each chamber before it successfully passes. If that happens, it goes to the desk of the governor, where the governor can either approve it put a signature on it, or veto it. Vetoes are rare, but they do happen, and there is an opportunity to maybe override the governor's veto, but you hopefully don't have to worry about that. He passes it, and that's when it finally becomes a law. So it takes a long time, and sometimes it takes multiple sessions. Sometimes you write the bill the first year and it goes nowhere. And maybe it takes the second year or the third year before it really gets up and going.
Senator Grooms is chuckling.
Yeah, I don't know if I've made it more complicated than it is, but it is a complicated process, as well it should be. These are laws which apply to everybody in the state of Indiana. They shouldn't be passed lightly, and there should be a lot of scrutiny, and that does occur. So there you go. That's my civics 101. It's best
Well
as I can
done.
do in whatever 6-7 minutes or whatever I took.
No, well done, well done.
Well done. Very well done.
Thanks, Ron.
So I think we probably have both fledgling as well as seasoned advocates for the arts on our in our session today. What tell us about how you both like to communicate with advocates, with your constituents. First of all, do you like to hear from them? I mean, you're very important and busy people, especially during the session. What's it like to get communications from people? Do you like to get emails? Do you like to get phone calls? Do you like to run into people on the street? Back in the days when we used to do that. Give us a sense of how communication works best for you.
I'll start.
Senator
Go ahead, Ron.
Thank you. My preference, of course, is in-person, personal contact on the street, in the church, at the grocery store. I love communicating and mingling with people and getting their opinion and ideas. Email is very important because it's easy for your legislative staff or your assistant to track that and follow that. It's easy for constituents to send an email. So the ways to communicate, of course, are so critical that they be effective. That is, we can get all the information we need, but we have to be able to act on it effectively, quickly, and it has to be in a format where our legislative assistants can address that. I like one-on-one, face-to-face contact. I like going door to door. I like sending out surveys. I like holding town hall meetings. All of that is part of our jobs. Senator Lanane, I'm sure, does the same things. It's so critical that there is no replacement. There's no better way to send a message than have a message sent by somebody that supports what you want, or someone who has a great way to counter what you're trying to accomplish, because that is so important to be able to get your message across. If you're trying to send a message and 75% of the people aren't interested, you're really wasting your time. So identifying, listening, being visible, being present, being available in your community, and responding accurately, effectively with what the issues are and what the people are saying. Those are so important to our job.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Ron said. The only thing that I would add is that timing is important as well, because
Good idea.
I think
Yes.
I've said in the past, I can remember several times when people sent me emails or called me the day after the vote had occurred. And so you do have to stay on top of what's going on in the General Assembly and make sure that you're getting your voice heard in time for the legislator to actually do something about it. So timing is important. I agree with every mode of communication that we've mentioned here. They're all important and they all occur. I still see a lot of people just on the street. My wife used to joke about, well, don't send him to the grocery store because it's going to take, twice as long as anybody else, because they're running with somebody who wants to talk to them about this or that. And she was usually right about that, and that was just fine. That's exactly the way it should be. I think in this modern era, I really appreciate if people will follow up, even if they do come to see me, or if they see me on the street, if they can get me something in writing. Email is very effective. It's so convenient to just turn around and forward that on to somebody else who can help you further the whole process. So I do personally recommend folks to contact me by email. Constituents, let your legislators know when you talk to them, by the way, or you communicate with them, that you are a constituent too, that you live in the district, because that is important.
Mhm.
And I know legislators certainly prioritize contacts that they have from their actual constituents. So that's the only other thing that I would add in terms of communication. But it is so crucial that you do communicate.
So my representative in the House of Representatives here in Bloomington is Representative Matt Pierce. And many years ago, Matt told me that if he gets 5 or 6 emails from constituents on a specific topic, he really stops and pays attention. Would you
Yes.
both agree with that?
I would. The only other thing I would add to that, and maybe Ron will agree, what happens a lot in the process is if you get 5 or 6 emails, you start then discussing that with your fellow legislators too. You start saying, hey, are you getting contacts about the such and such issue? Because I've had a number of those. And you'd be surprised if there's an effective network of communications statewide, or certainly, in more than just one district. And you have several legislators say, yeah, I'm hearing about that too. What are you hearing in your district about that? That's the way issues really get up and going at the Indiana General Assembly, I think. Ron, I don't know if you agree with that
agree.
or not.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
One thing that doesn't really, it loses its effectiveness is if someone sends out an email to someone and then says, I want 100 people to forward this same email to all of your legislators. Well, when you get the same email 100 times, you kind of wonder what is really going on here. So it makes you stop and check and see, well, why am I getting 100 emails with the same issue but the same message from 100 different people?
Mm-hmm.
I believe that, Sally, I'm
fair.
not sure if you're the person that put the website up, but we might as well just talk about that right now while we've got it up. For those of you who are on the Zoom call, you want to make sure that you go to this website. It's IN Arts Advocates, or Indiana Arts Advocates, inartsadvocates.org. And you want to sign up and get involved so that you can get information about what we're doing in the state of Indiana. And it's not just Senators Grooms and Lanane and Sally and I sitting around making all the decisions. We have a group of folks, and I think it's further down on the, if you can see it.
It's very hard to read.
It's very hard to read. I have a slide that I can show if you need to see it larger. But we have people from all over the state of Indiana that are assisting us in getting the message out. And we want you to also be a part of. Thank you for whoever's doing that, making it bigger.
Yeah, shout out to our fellow arts advocates who have taken on this leadership job of joining us on the Indiana Arts Advocacy Council, from all the way from Munster to Evansville,
Yay.
every place in between.
And every place in between.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of work that we're going to be doing, and we would like to have you to be a part of it also. If we can go back to another couple of questions, and while we're asking questions, you all feel free to put your question in the chat box, and we will get to those in the second half of the presentation. So kind of going back to figuring out how to coordinate advocacy for arts revenue. I'd like to ask both senators, how can we, as advocates, coordinate this advocacy for arts revenue in the budget, in the upcoming budget? How can we do that? How can you help us to do that effectively with you?
Well, let me throw out an idea here. I'll just sort of build on my the comment I made before about the importance of it being more than just 1 or 2 legislators who are hearing from their constituents. So to the extent that doing what you are here, which is putting together a statewide network of advocates. I think that that's important, but it's important also to have a message, sort of a unified message. That unified message can be, let's say, the importance of funding for the arts in the state budget. So you've got that, and you're hopefully having a number of legislators who are being advocated in that regards. You also need then to tailor it to how that plays out specifically within a given legislator's district. And I think you've done a good job in the past when you talk about particular art efforts and programs and organizations within the legislator's district, and point out to them how the funding through the state budget impacts those organizations and what that means then in terms of the community, the value to that particular community. So you need to have a statewide effort with a unified message generally, but also make it localized to the individual legislators so they get it, that, oh, this is important to my particular district because of this organization and that program, and which they are familiar with in their own given districts.
Okay, thank you.
Would
Senator
agree.
Grooms?
Senator Lanane has nailed it on the contact and the way to do this. I want to go back to it's not that I mentioned emails. It's not that I don't appreciate the emails. What I meant to further say was, when an organization sends 100 emails of the same message, that appears that it was just sent to the secretary of the communications department of one agency, and that same email with the same message is sent to everybody, you realize that this is something that didn't come from maybe the chairman of the agency, but was just sent out as a blanket sharing of an email.
Right.
There's nothing on the agenda. I saw there's Batesville Arts Council, 30 some volunteers from the community are on that council. That is an example of how powerful 33 different messages from the same community about various issues in their community, that goes out, and that has a lot of power, because now you have 33 different voices targeting their legislator in their particular district. So you can imagine if 33 people from Senator Lanane's district contact him personally about an issue in Anderson, he's going to listen. And and the same for Jeffersonville. I'm gonna listen to that, and I want to know more about what they're talking about. Back to the specific issue of the revenue. The Arts Commission, the advocates, myself, we all have to convince the legislators that the importance to arts, not only in the $8.4 billion economic impact, but the number of jobs that are created, the number of events that people come to and spend money, the number of opportunities for tourism in your community are unbelievable if you have a strong arts commission and a strong arts council, someone promoting that. In our society today, we're so spoiled by things that we sometimes forget. If I want to watch the Dodgers play the Yankees, and I'm in a meeting, I don't have to worry about that anymore. I just record it and play it at 3 o'clock in the morning. So we've got to figure out a way to get people involved rather than sitting home replaying all of their videos that they've recorded over the last 2 days. How we do that is going to be even more challenging because of the technology that's out there. So those are some of the days, but let your legislator know how the budget impacts your community. Give examples, lost projects, lost events, lost jobs, all of the things that would happen if the Arts Council is not funded adequately and at least to be in a survival mode. Thanks.
Very good.
Now that's really valuable. We've learned today already that nationwide, at any event, about 10% of arts organizations believe that they won't make it through the pandemic. So if we lost 10% of the arts organizations in Indiana, that would be a huge tragedy.
Yeah.
Would be.
And we need to let the people know. We need the legislators know that that's at risk. That's
Right.
out there. That
Exactly.
maybe that is not just a guess. That's probably an accurate reality.
Exactly. So I think, and one thing that we learned from Randy Cohen earlier today is always when you're advocating or speaking to a legislator about the arts, always lead with a story and back it up with numbers, or
Yes,
never provide numbers without a story, vice versa.
that's
Right.
correct.
And vice versa.
Cool. So thank you for validating that. What about advocating for the arts in our own communities at the local level? What kinds of advice would you have for our attendees about doing that, how to get started?
Go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Ron. Yeah, well, I think it's important that there be, we've been talking about organizing as a statewide level a network of advocates for the arts. Well, I think that all goes back though to a grassroots effort within the community too. In other words, within your county or your city, I think it would be very, very important to have a local arts, coordinated effort too of the various things going on in the community, which can lead into making community awareness of what's going on within your area as far as the arts go. We started out talking, I think, in terms of the bipartisan support for the arts at the General Assembly. Well, there's wide support within given communities, but it has to be known exactly what are the artistic efforts that exist within a community. And then I think it's important to bring in, the various factors like education, other local governmental officials as well, to make sure that they understand the importance of the arts within the community. And by and large, you're going to find there's a lot of support by local elected officials and governmental officers for the arts within the communities, because they realize what an important part of the economy, the local economy it can be, and also how important it is to the quality of life within a community. And so you can hold out that within our community, we have the following artistic endeavors, which is something that is wonderful for any given community. And then along those lines, I do want to say this. I think it's important that local artistic programs make sure that they include their state legislators and make sure that they are invited to the various events that are going on, the performances and the shows and the exhibits, et cetera, that are occurring. I think it's important that they also have an opportunity to meet the artists. If you can put a face to a given
Good idea.
a given community event, well, that really does, I think, even enhance within the legislators' mind the importance of what is going on artistically within their community. So I think it's just the idea of involving legislators wherever you can. Hopefully, if you can get them to come to the performances and to the exhibits, they're going to realize the importance of those efforts to their districts.
I just add to that, one of the best ways for a local art council to get attention, help with getting out information would be invite your legislator to an event for a photo op.
Yeah.
If nothing else, if it's just an open house, and then chances are, Tim and I are going to post that on some social media, and the Arts Council in that community is going to get a lot of recognition from just that one 20-minute appearance by a legislator to come and say hello. And I don't know of very many legislators that their ego doesn't prevent them from coming to a photo op every time they get an opportunity, particularly if it's in a positive nature. So involve your local legislator. Tim said it best. Get your legislator there. Get them involved. In Jeffersonville, Indiana, we started an arts council the last 2 years I was on the city council, and today it's one of the best art cultural districts in the state of Indiana, because the community got behind it, and because the mayor got behind it, and because the city council got behind it, and they got people like me involved, who suddenly is now an advocate for not only Jeffersonville, but Anderson and throughout the state, all because someone on the city council suggested that Senator Grooms, former city councilman, ought to be more help. But that's the way things go. An easy answer is get a hold of your legislator and your legislative team, your district legislators, your area coordinators. Get them involved and just get their support, get them out there.
Yeah.
Revenue wise, locally, I don't know the clear-cut answer there, other than I know our districts, most of them are very underfunded. But if you get a mayor or a city council or a town manager or somebody in that community that gets behind it, at least it's going to have a better shot than just sitting back and saying, we don't have any money, we can't do that. Well, Jefferson didn't have any money either, but they found a way to do it. And that is now happening in the city of New Albany.
That's
so they
wonderful.
see Jeffersonville sees New Albany, and Anderson sees Muncie, and Pendleton and all the others around them doing things, and now go, we better get involved in this.
Yeah.
We're missing something here. We better paint those bicycles and put them on every car, and paint those electricity boxes with something decorative and artistic, and call the teachers and get them to come to a meeting, or just all kinds of opportunities out there to communicate.
Yes, that's very helpful, Senator Grooms. In fact, that was going to be my next question, to give us some personal examples or specific examples from your area. And you gave us a great example of your cultural center. Senator Lanane, do you have a story, a personal story, or something that has occurred in your area that you'd like to share that has helped you or to understand?
Well, sure. In Muncie, of course, we have the Muncie Symphony Orchestra. We have in Anderson, we have the Anderson Symphony Orchestra. We have the Anderson Fine Arts Center. We have the Center for the Arts in Muncie. We have Ball State University, which is, of course, a tremendous plus in the Muncie area. We have Anderson University in Anderson, too. And both of those institutions of higher learning, of course, have many opportunity for the arts, whether it's something going on at Emmons Auditorium or it's something happening in Anderson at Byron Hall, for example, where they have a lot of productions, etc. So all of these are just so important to the essence of a community, and people need to, I think sometimes on a local basis, citizens think, well, that's for somebody else. That's their thing to do. But you know what? All these organizations, they have boards that they need members. You don't have to be the most artistic person to appreciate the arts and to know that there has to be a good organized board. So if you're a person who can bring that type of a talent to a local organization, you should do that as well. And then just patronizing the arts is so important. So it's I think one of the maybe silver linings in the pandemic, and it's so sad that there were so many artistic opportunities that probably had to be canceled this year because of the pandemic. But also, I think at least I know in many instances I heard from the community saying, oh, it's such a shame that they had to cancel the festival this year or to cancel the outdoors performance that was going to occur this year about something or an indoor performance. And I think that has maybe hopefully driven home the importance of the arts in our community, and we've got to keep them going under all circumstances, no matter what the challenge is. And so, yeah, I thank you for that question. The local arts just are so meaningful to everybody.
So how soon should we start reaching out to you? We know the session starts at a certain time. Should we wait until the session starts? Can we start reaching out to you now? How would you, what type of advice would you give us as to when?
Ron, give your idea and then I'll give mine on that.
I would say no later than the 1st of December. And I also would say that tomorrow is not too early.
Right.
There is no start and stop date for promoting and advancing and advocating for arts. There is a time frame and the windows of extreme importance that be effective, and of course that's starting January the 1st. But there's no reason not to start working on these issues tomorrow, in my opinion. I can't stress enough the importance of persons in our communities contact and get to know their legislators. I've asked this question many times of folks that I've been to art events, of members of the local communities. Have you contacted Representative Smith? Have you contacted Representative Brown? No, I don't know who that is. Do you know who your legislator is? Your local state representative? No, I really don't know who that is. And I'm sure Senator Lanane has the same thing. I find that people who are searching out, a person from Corydon, Indiana, wanted to know, how do I get a hold of somebody to help me write a grant? Is there a state arts commission? Is there somebody that will help me write a grant for an arts project in Corydon? It's not their fault. They just have never been given a reason or opportunity to get to know their legislator. But if the average person in Madison County would ask, is Senator Lanane my state senator, I bet you there wouldn't be 5% of the people who could say yes or no. And the same with me. I mean, it's same, because I'm talking about the people that are not involved in any arts work or anything else. They don't know who we are because they have no reason to know who we are, unless it's something that's a specific personal issue to them or they have an issue.
Yeah. You know, Ron, you're right about that. Whether it's 5% or maybe 6%, I don't know. But any event, whatever it is, it's not as much as we tend to think it would be.
Enough as it needs to be.
Yeah. The other important thing, which I think is important for people to realize, is don't be afraid to contact your local legislators. I've had people who have said, you know, I was going to call you, but I know you're busy, and I know you. Well, no, call me. And we're not off in Washington, D.C., you know, miles and miles, you know, thousands of miles away. We're right in your own community, and you would be surprised if the legislators are doing their job. They are accessible, and they want to hear from you. And the only other thing I would say is Ron talked about when to contact your legislators, and tomorrow's not too early. He's right about that. And don't hesitate to contact them a couple of times. Contact them before the session, let them know what's on your mind, and then follow up when session begins too, to make sure that that idea that you're concerned about, that's important to you, that remains something which is also you know, before your legislator. Because once we get into session, things do get hectic, things move pretty quickly along. And so, but if you're a constituent of that legislator, that gives you the right to be heard, and the legislators understand that, and they believe, I think my experience has been, most legislators, all good legislators, there's nothing more important than a communication from the constituent.
Mm.
Just a comment. I didn't mean to imply that only 5% of people knew who Tim Lanane was. What I meant was,
It's all right, Ron. It's all right.
you take
No.
100 people attending this
You're
conference.
right.
Ask them who their state senator is, not picking from a list or checking off of guessing. Ask them to name their state senator.
Yeah.
The 100 people there today, I bet you wouldn't get a very high percentage.
No, you're right. You're right about that, Ron.
So we have a question from the audience from Mary Kramer. And actually, I've always wondered this myself. Two questions. I'm going to start with the second one. Do you consider input from people outside of your districts?
Oh, good question.
Good question.
Well, I'll just answer quickly. Well, certainly. I mean, I every communication I get, someone puts it in front of me, I read it. But I will say this, and my legislative assistants know this. That's why I say it's important. Let your legislator know you are a constituent, because I prioritize those. I prioritize those before even the lobbyists, who are trying to get hold of you down at the General Assembly, for example. There's nothing more important than a constituent's contact, but it is important also to hear from everybody. And so, yes, but the most important person you can contact is your own state representative or state senator from your own district. So as Ron's been pointing out here, it's important to know who those people are.
Right.
We respond to every email, but then we also filter, because if it's from the state of California,
Oh yeah,
issue that does. I'm not picking on California. If it's from Virginia, if it's an issue that they think they're contacting a United States senator.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to put a high priority on that.
Yeah.
I also, if someone from South Bend, Indiana contacts me, and it's about an issue regarding my district, although it's from somebody in South Bend, you never know, it might be a good friend of mine's mother.
Yeah, right.
So you want to be very careful about.
Yes.
That's right.
And be very polite and address all correspondence. Yes, answer yes. We pay attention to every detail and every letter that comes in for those reasons. And I'm sure Senator Lanane has had the same experiences. You never know who's on the other end of that.
That's right. That's right.
Sally, you had another part to that question.
So Mary also wanted to get some feedback on reaching out to our federal legislators who are here in our state. Yeah,
that's important. And quite frankly, I don't know, I'll let Ron talk about how he does it, in his office, but it does happen quite often that people will contact you about a matter which is a federal issue, for example. But we have, and that does happen routinely, so it's not unusual for us to then be able to refer those folks to the right agency, or in many occasions, that is the local United States representative within your district. Because, for example, I'm sure for Ron, it might be the same way down in Jeffersonville. In Anderson, there is a local representative for the United States representative who has an office and has hours right in Anderson. You don't have to worry about how do I have to contact, Representative Brooks. There is somebody, a liaison, who actually has an office in the city building in Anderson. And I think Congressman Pence may have a similar situation over in Muncie.
Yes.
So they're a little bit more accessible than you think. It's obviously can be difficult to get hold of the United States senators when there's only 2 for each state, in a state like Indiana, where you've got 6.5 million people. But you usually can rely on your local legislator, state legislator, to at least get that person directed in the right to the right person. I know that many times, for example, veterans questions will come into my office, and it really ends up being something which the federal representative needs to handle. And luckily, they have veterans representatives who can help them on matters involving veterans affairs. So don't have, again, the issue is don't hesitate. Start with your state legislator who can hopefully get you channeled to the right place, even if it is a federal issue.
Yeah. In terms of arts advocacy, I can say that Americans for the Arts has a National Arts Action Center, and you get on their mailing list, you'll receive federal arts advocacy alerts, and that will enable you to know what kinds of messaging is important to perform at a given time. And similarly, that's the kind of system that we're in the process of hoping to set up here in Indiana. So to plug our website again, it's inartsadvocates.org. And if you simply click on Get Involved, that's how you submit your name and mailing address to us, so that we'll know who you are and that you are interested in knowing about advocacy issues in the arts in the state of Indiana. And there is our website again in the chat box.
So what we've heard today is that it's important to communicate. It's important to connect to your local representatives. They want to hear from you. They want to hear how what you do connects to the economic impact of your area. And it's not too soon to contact. Tomorrow isn't too soon.
Right.
So we've heard all of those things, and now it's our responsibility to do those things.
That's right.
We've got a great start with our two co-chairs from the Senate, and we have others that will be joining them to help us with our cause, so that we can continue to do art. Anna.
And if you're wondering about Terry, I don't know if it's me, but you're going in and out a little bit, but I think you've handed it over to me. So, so if you're wondering about what to say to your elected officials, always start by thanking them. Thank you for your support of the arts and of the Indiana Arts Commission. And please remember the budget of the Indiana Arts Commission, particularly in the upcoming legislative session. Those are the two most important arts advocacy messages that we can help you with today. Senators, thank you so much. I've learned a lot. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Senator.
Yes, thank you very much.
Absolutely wonderful.
Today and going forward, we really appreciate it.
We look forward to continuing to connect with you.
Thank you. We look forward to working with you.
Very good. We'll be there.
Awesome. And thanks to everybody for showing up today.
Right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.